Hello, my name is Anne England, and in this video I'm going to talk you through the process of managing alerts, running reports, and viewing sensor information. Before you start, you'll need access to the control center. The rights assigned to you on your user profile will define what you can see and the types of alerts you can manage. This means that the screen you see when you log in may look a little different to mine. The first thing I want to talk about is what you use Checkit for, and then I'll talk about the elements that generate the alerts. So when you think about Checkit, think about it in two halves. We have work management and automated monitoring. Work management is the handheld device that you use to complete work or checklists on. You'll either be using a device that is supplied by Checkit, or you may have installed the app on one of your own devices. You may also have a probe or probes to take temperatures of food or perhaps water. Work is downloaded to the devices using Wi-Fi, and you'll get a visual and a sound notification to tell you that work is due. Your work will be completed on the device, and you'll be given a block of time to complete it in. That could be in minutes, hours, or even days. Part of that work may be that you need to take temperatures. The system will prompt you when you need to do that, and it will also tell you if the temperatures you have taken are in or out of range. You should also be given the opportunity to report a problem, and that could either be within a checklist, or you may have a completely separate checklist for reporting general problems. Automated monitoring is the hardware used to record temperatures. Temperature sensors are placed in units such as fridges, freezers, hot holes, and walk-ins. Their job is to record the temperature of the units they're placed in. They record the temperature every 5 minutes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and will tell you if they get too warm or too cold. The sensors will then send their readings to a hub, and they will either do that directly to the hub or via a repeater, which acts as a booster in areas with poor signal. Every 15 minutes, the hub will send its readings to the control center, which is where you can see all of the information that's been recorded. So now we know what Checkit does. Now we need to know why it's sending us alerts. When we get alerts, we're getting them because there's a problem with something. But what is it that has happened, or perhaps hasn't happened? What have we missed? What needs to be done? What is it that's triggered the alert? Let's talk first about the alerts that are generated from work management. Work management can generate two different types of alerts: check alerts and overdue alerts. Check alerts are represented by a red warning triangle in the control center, and overdue alerts are represented by the clock. Check alerts are generated because you've asked for them to be. When a checklist is initially created, one of the decisions you make is whether or not you want that check or that option on a check to trigger an alert. The alert will only be triggered if that check is completed or that option is selected. You'd usually set it against checks like comments, reporting a problem, selecting a negative answer, or taking an out-of-range temperature. Overdue alerts are automatically generated and are triggered because scheduled work has been completed late, is incomplete, or has been completely missed. Unscheduled work, on the other hand, will not trigger an overdue alert because it doesn't have a time limit for completion. Let's talk about the difference between the two. Scheduled work has a time limit against it, and you can see that time limit under the clock. When work is due to start, it will appear in the due section. It then moves up to the incomplete section once you've completed your first check. If you've not completed the checklist by the time the clock runs out, it will move up again into the red overdue section and an overdue alert will be sent. Any time that you see in the clock now is extra time, so you can still finish the work, but the alert will have already been sent. Unscheduled work, on the other hand, has no time limit. It's work that you will have started yourself by pressing the square work button at the bottom left of the screen, and it means that you won't see any time against the clock. So to recap, the difference between check and overdue alerts is that check alerts are represented by a red triangle in the control center. Overdue alerts are represented by a clock. Check alerts are generated because you've asked for them to be, whereas overdue alerts are generated automatically. Check alerts are triggered by individual checks, whereas overdue alerts are triggered by checklists. Check alerts are generated when you do something, so when you complete a specific check, whereas overdue alerts are generated when you don't, so that's if you don't complete work on time. And if the checklist reaches the overdue state, it means it's too late. It's likely that you'll be able to complete the rest of the work, but the alert will already have been sent. So that's check and overdue alerts. Next up is the alerts that are generated from automated monitoring. Automated monitoring can generate sensor and service alerts. The sensors can generate both sensor and service alerts. Repeaters and hubs can generate service alerts. Sensor alerts are represented by the radio signal icon, and service alerts are represented by the traffic cone. Sensor alerts are generated because the temperature of a unit has been out of range for too long. That range and that length of time is defined by a temperature rule, and that rule is applied to each sensor after installation. The rule is set for a specific type of unit, so you might have, for example, a fridge rule and a freezer rule. The rule itself defines what the temperature range is supposed to be, when it should send alerts, so between which times, and how long it should wait before it sends an alert. This is known as its recovery period and is usually around 60 minutes. When the sensors trigger an alert, it's because the rule has been broken, and it's broken because the temperature has been above its maximum or below its minimum for longer than its recovery period. A sensor could go out of range for a number of reasons. For example, the door may have been left open or the seal could be faulty. The unit itself may be faulty or may have been unplugged. And always check the sensor itself. Has it been moved or removed from its bracket? Or is there too much stock in front or around it? It may also help to take photos of them in their correct position. Service alerts are generated automatically and are triggered when the sensors or repeaters have a low battery or if the lines of communication have been down for more than an hour. A communication issue could be that the Wi-Fi has gone down, there may be a problem with the network, or there may have been a power cut. What this means is that the sensors or repeater can't send data to the hub, or the hub may not be able to send its data to the control center. During this downtime, the sensors will still collect temperature readings, and they'll be uploaded when the lines of communication are open again. When you look at the temperature reports, you'll see the actual time that the temperatures were taken rather than the time that they were uploaded. So to recap, work management will generate check and overdue alerts, and automated monitoring will generate sensor and service alerts. So now we know how we get alerts, but how do we get told about them? Next up, alert notifications. All alert notifications are sent by email and will come from alert@checkit.net. The bell light on the repeater and hub will also flash blue if you have sensor alerts. When you get the notification, the heading on the email will display the type of alert and the location. The content of the email will depend on the type of alert it is. So if you have a check alert email, you'll see the name of the check and the checklist it came from. An overdue alert email will tell you the name of the checklist and the team it was allocated to. A sensor alert email will tell you the name and location of the sensor, the temperature it was alerting at, and the temperature that it should be in brackets. This is the temperature range in the rule. A service alert email will tell you one of two things. A hub offline alert will tell you the name of the hub that's offline and the name of the sensors that are linked to it. A no data alert will tell you the name and serial number of the sensor that can't communicate to the hub. My Checkit alerts are in a separate folder to my inbox, and I've also grouped them according to their alert type or subject. If you would like to know how I did that, then you can find a link to the Creating a Rule in Outlook video in the notes section of this video. So now we know we have an alert, but how do we go about dealing with them? The alerts themselves are managed in the Control Center, and you can access that by following the link to app.checkit.net in the body of the notification email or from your browser. I have a shortcut in my browser, so I'm going to access it from there. For the rest of this session, we're going to concentrate on the alert status, reports, and automated monitoring status screens. But before I go into each one, I'd like to take a minute to talk to you about the role or roles that you've been given, because they define what you can see and do in here. A supervisor can manage check, overdue, and sensor alerts, and can manage the alerts by team. You can also see that there are service alerts but won't be able to access them. An administrator manages service alerts and can manage the alerts by location. An administrator is the only role that can access information about the hardware, and they also have higher privileges when it comes to clearing the alerts. I could also have more than one role assigned to me. So if, for example, I was a supervisor and an administrator, then I would be able to see and clear all alerts by team and by location. I would also have access to information about the hardware, and this combination of role also gives the administrator higher privileges when it comes to clearing alerts. A safety manager is the most senior role, and they can manage all of the alerts by location. It shouldn't be handed out lightly because it's the only role that can create checklists and allocate work. So that's the overview of the roles. Now let's get back to the alerts. The alert status window shows us how many alerts of each type there are for the teams or locations that you have been given access to. If these were all green, then it would mean that everything is online and that nothing is outstanding. But all of them are red, so that means we have outstanding alerts for all types. Our next step is to deal with them. I'm going in with my supervisor hat on, so I'm going to look at check, overdue, and sensor alerts by teams. On the left, you will see a list of the teams that triggered the alerts, so you may not see all of the teams that you're responsible for because not all of them triggered an alert. You'll also see a breakdown of how many of each type are outstanding. I'm going to look at check alerts first by pressing on the red triangle. Check alerts are triggered by individual checks on a checklist, and we can see them listed on the left with the newest one at the top. Selecting the alert will show me the full details on the right, including any text that was entered by the operator. I can also see the time that it was triggered, who triggered it, so that's the name of the person who logged into the device, and the team that the work was allocated to. We now need to do something with the alert. If we can resolve the issue, then we can clear it, but if we can't, we can acknowledge it now and clear it later. I'm going to show you both ways. This first alert came from the comments check that was completed as part of last night's closing checklist, and the comment reads, "We need more freezer bags." I've now replenished them, so I can type that into the action taken box, and this has resolved the problem, so I can press clear at the bottom. Say yes to remove it from the list. I'll show you later how we can see the history of this alert on a report. This next alert was generated from the opening checks checklist, and you may also notice that it has a paperclip, which means that a photo has been attached. On the right here, we can see the breadcrumb trail of events. The fire escape check was completed, a problem was found, and they were asked to report the problem. And we can read the comment that says the exit was blocked with heavy boxes. We can also look at the photo by pressing the paperclip button and then the camera. The image will then open in a separate tab above. I know about this issue and I'm on site today, so I've seen that the obstruction has been removed. So I'll type that into the action taken box and then clear alert again because the issue has been resolved. In this next issue, I can see that someone has completed the I need to report a problem checklist, and we have this in place in case people need to report a general problem. With this one, we have a leaking tap, and we have another photo, but I can't solve this straight away because I need a member of the maintenance team to sort it out. I've now emailed them, so I'm going to enter that in here, and this time I'm going to acknowledge the alert. I can't clear it yet because the problem hasn't been resolved. The alert remains on the list, but changes from red to amber because it's been acknowledged. I can also see the text that I entered, my name, and the date and time that I entered the comment. Acknowledging the issue means that you're not just making it visible for due diligence and reporting purposes, it also means that you're giving visibility to others of your actions. Anyone else logging in would therefore be able to see the current status of the alert and the name of the last person who had dealings with it. If needed, you can enter multiple acknowledgements until such time that it can be cleared. I'm just going to leave that one there. Okay, so that's our check alerts. Next up, overdue alerts. I can view overdue alerts from here by switching at the top, or I can go back a step by selecting the Back to Teams button at the bottom. Overdue alerts are triggered because the checklist has been completely missed or has not been completed in full. On the left, we can see the name of the checklist that was overdue, and if I select it, I can see the name of the team that the work was assigned to on the right. In terms of managing it, the same concept of clear or acknowledge and then clear applies. My first alert is for the closing checklist, and I know that some of the team were in a meeting yesterday because I was in that meeting. And I also know that they completed the rest of the work after the alert had been generated, and we'll see that later when we look at the work report. I'm going to say completed late and then clear. Next in the list is opening checklist. I'm not sure why this would have been overdue, so I need to check with the team. I'm going to say need to check with the team and then acknowledge. My text will be saved and the alert will change from red to amber because it's been acknowledged. If you find yourselves dealing with a lot of overdue alerts, don't necessarily assume that it's the team's fault. There could be a number of reasons why work is late. Some of the things to consider could be, is the team short-staffed? Are other teams short-staffed so people in your teams are helping? Do they have enough time to complete the work? Is the work scheduled too early or too late? Is the checklist too long? Or perhaps the checks themselves are badly worded? Does the team need training? And ask them. Find out for yourself if there are any problems by asking the people in the team who are using it. Okay, so that's overdue alerts. Next up, sensor alerts. I'm now going to go back to my dashboard by pressing the Checkit logo at the top, or you could press the Home button. Press View by Teams, and then Sensor Alerts on the right. Sensor alerts are generated because the temperature has been out of range for too long, and when you view the alert, you'll see that the sensor will either have stopped alerting, or it will still be alerting. How you deal with them is largely controlled by whether or not the temperature is back in range. On the left, we can see the name of the sensor that alerted and the time that the alert was triggered. But don't forget, every sensor has a rule, and the rule has a recovery period of, let's say, 60 minutes. So the alert will only be generated if the temperature has been out of range for longer than its recovery period. So at the time of the trigger, the sensor has already been out of range for an hour. We need to be mindful of that. The next important point is the distance of time between the time of the trigger and the time it stopped alerting. If this distance of time plus the recovery period is a safe distance of time for it to be out of range, then we can clear it. Your own health and safety policies will define what that period of time is. The decision you make is whether it's safe to clear the alert, and if it is, then you can enter your actions and then clear. If not, then you would need to enter the relevant corrective actions. So you may have moved the produce, or you may have had to throw it away if the alert had been left for too long. I'm going to type in text to say, OK to clear, back in range, and then clear. The next one, apply the same theory. At the time of the alert, we know that it's already been alerting for a set number of minutes, so make sure you take that into account. If the status reads stopped alerting, look at the distance of time between the alert being triggered and the time that it was cleared. If it's safe to clear, then add your action and then clear. If the distance of time is too long, then acknowledge the alert to record the fact that you know about it and are investigating. In this next example, the sensor status is in red and it's currently alerting, and has been for some time, so I need to make sure that I investigate what the problem is. The only thing I can do in this instance is acknowledge it. I can't clear it because it's still in an alerting state. If I try to clear it, then it won't let me, so let me show you. I've entered my text. If I press clear, just keep your eye on the top left. As soon as I press clear alert and say yes, it will say it cannot be cleared because the device is still in an alerted state. As a supervisor, all I can do is acknowledge it until such time that it goes back into range. So I'm going to say that I need to investigate and then acknowledge. The alert has now turned amber, and then I can see the text and the date and time that I entered the text below. The final type of alerts is service alerts, so I'm going to go back to my dashboard by pressing the Checkit logo at the top or the Home button. Service alerts can only be managed by an administrator or a safety manager, and they are viewed by location. So with my administrator hat on, I'm going to press View by Location, and then the traffic cone service alert icon on the right. The same concept in here applies with the acknowledge and clear, and always be mindful of the distance of time between the trigger and its current status. Offline alerts are generally triggered after 1 hour, so if you see the device offline or hub offline, then this will only be generated if the service is still offline after 60 minutes. Note that this time frame is preset by Checkit, so do contact us if you need it to be changed. And finally, if you have an alert type that says low battery, please just let us know and we'll send you a replacement. Okay, so that's alert status. Next up is reports. The alerts report shows you the alerts that have been generated and actions that have been taken in a specific location between specific dates. Press View to see the report and select the location you're interested in from the list on the left. If you have more than one page of locations, then you can either use the search bar at the top to find the location you need, or you can use the arrow at the bottom to navigate through the pages. By default, the report will display all alerts that were generated today minus 1 day for all teams in that location. You can change the date range by using the quick search on the left. That will change the dates for you, or you can choose your own date range by clicking in the date fields to choose a date from the calendar. You can also sort by newest to oldest or oldest to newest. You can also choose specific alert types that will open up fields to the right. If I choose sensor, then that opens up the sensor names and teams fields. Service will open up sensor names, and check or overdue will open the team and checklist fields. If you change any of the filters, then you'll need to press the magnifying glass to refresh the results in the grid below. The report itself will show me the alerts that have been generated. If the row is grey, it means that the alert has been cleared. Amber means that the alert has been acknowledged, and red means that the alert is still outstanding. Each header row will show you when the alert was triggered, and the details of the alert, such as the name of the checklist or the name of the sensor and its rule. If you see a paperclip, it means that an image has been attached. You can select a single header to view the details of the alert, or you can press Expand All at the right to view them all. All alerts will show you who acknowledged and/or cleared the alert and when. It will also show you the distance of time between the generation of the alert and its acknowledgement or clearance. The report can also be exported by pressing the Export button at the top. It will be exported as a CSV file, and you can open the file from here or open its folder. Next up is the work report, and I can switch from here by hovering over the Switch Report bar at the top, or I can go back to my dashboard by clicking on the Checkit logo or the home along the right. The work report will show you the work that has been completed between two dates and by whom. Press View and then select the location on the left. By default, the report will show you work that has been completed by all teams in that location today minus 1 day. You can change the date range by using the quick search on the left. That will change the dates for you. Or you can click in the date fields to display the calendar, and then you can choose your own dates. You can sort by newest to oldest or oldest to newest for both the time the work was started or the time the work was scheduled. You can also use the filters to search for work that has been completed by a specific team or for a specific checklist, or both. If you change any of the filters, then you'll need to press the magnifying glass to refresh the results in the grid below. Each header row will show you when the work was started, the time of the schedule if there was one, the name of the checklist, and the team that the work was allocated to. If you see a paperclip, it means that there is a photo attached, and you can view it by pressing on the button and then on the camera. The work for an individual checklist can be viewed by selecting its heading, or you can press Expand All to see all of the work and then Collapse All to close. Each line of work will display the name of the person that completed the work, the day and time that the work was completed, and the name of the check. If you look at this closing checklist, we can see that the work was completed after the scheduled time, and we know that it triggered an alert because we saw it earlier. If you remember, I entered completed late in the action taken, and we have the evidence here. For temperature checks, you can see if the Checkit probe was used, the temperature that was recorded, and the expected temperature in brackets. You can also see if the temperature was rejected. This red thermometer means that the person taking the temperature would have pressed the retake button. In this checklist, we can see that the out-of-range temperature did not trigger an alert, but the amount of product wasted did. If you see a red warning triangle, it means that it triggered a check alert. This report can be exported by pressing the Export button at the top. It will be exported as a CSV file, and you can open the file from here or open the folder. So that's the work report. Now we can turn our attention to the monitoring reports. The monitoring report will show us the temperatures that have been recorded by the sensors in a specific location between specific dates. So if you were asked to provide evidence of temperatures for your units, then this is the report you would need. Press View and then select the location from the left. By default, the report will show us all temperatures that were recorded today minus 1 day for all of the sensors within that location. You can change the date range by using the quick search on the left. That will change the dates for you, or you can click in the date fields to display the calendar, and you can choose your own dates from there. If you want to look at temperatures for a specific sensor, then you can click in the All Sensors field and enter the name of the sensor you need to look at. If you can't see the sensor in the list, then you can just start typing its name. If you change any of the filters, then you'll need to press the magnifying glass to refresh the results in the grid below. We can now see the date and time that the temperature is recorded and the 5-minute intervals. The name of the sensor is in the middle and the temperature itself is on the right. It's highly likely that you will have multiple pages on this report, and you can see the number of pages at the bottom. You can view the report page by page by using the arrow, or you can go to the end of the report by selecting the highest number. This report can also be exported by pressing the Export button at the top. It will be exported as a CSV file, and you can open the file from here, or you can open the folder. The next report that I'm going to show you will display the same information that you see here, but on a graph, and its name is the Monitoring Summary Report. The Monitoring Summary Report will show you the temperatures that have been recorded by the sensors on a graph, and it's a great report to use if you're looking for changes or trends. Press View and then select the location on the left. You'll now see a tile with the name of each sensor, together with a little table that shows you the average, minimum and maximum temperatures that sensor is recording. You'll also notice that each tile is surrounded by a different coloured border. When I select a sensor or sensors, you'll notice that the readings are plotted on the graph, and the line is in the same colour as the border. If you want to remove a sensor from the graph, then all you need to do is click again to remove it. When I'm looking at this report, I usually select sensors that are of a similar type. And the reason I do that is because if, for example, I included fridges and freezers, then the range on the graph would be considerably greater, which makes the view slightly less effective. So I'm going to select my fridge sensors. I can now see the temperatures on the left and the dates along the bottom. You may also notice dots along the line. If I hover over them, you'll see the date, time, and temperature. And this is probably an easier way to view the temperatures than trying to pinpoint the exact time along the bottom here. If you want to see the temperatures for a different date range, then you can do so by clicking on the drop-down above where you see today. You can either select a specific date, a specific date range, or a specific time frame on the right. If you do change them, just make sure that you press Generate, and then you'll need to plot the names of the sensor again. This report is a great way for you to spot and monitor trends. If, for example, you notice spikes at the same time every day or every week, then you can look at that with a view to understanding what happens at that time. Is it that deliveries come at that time, that you're restocking? Is there an auto defrost at that time? When you understand the environment around you, it usually means that you can better understand the behaviour of the sensors. So that's the Monitoring Summary Report. The last section in this course is the Automated Monitoring Status screen, which is where we can view what the sensors are doing right now. The Automated Monitoring Status section allows you to see what the current temperatures are, and we can do that by pressing View Sensors. Select the location on the left and see the sensors in that location on the right. Each sensor has its own tile, and at first glance we can see the name of the sensor, its last reported temperature, and the time it was last reported. The earliest that you will see this read is just now, and the latest will be 15 minutes ago, because as we know, the hub sends the readings from the sensors to the control center every 15 minutes. The tiles themselves will display in one of four colours. Green means that there are no outstanding alerts, that the sensor is in range and is online. Amber means that it has an outstanding alert that has been acknowledged. Red means that there are one or more outstanding alerts. And if you were to see a tile in black, then it means that the device is offline. From here, we can also drill down on an individual sensor by clicking on it. Ideally, we want the readings to be between these two green lines, because these two green lines represent the temperature rule. The name of the rule can be seen at the top right here, so if you notice that this is blank, then you'll need to add one yourself or contact us and we can talk you through how to do it. If the temperature goes above or below the maximum or minimum for a specific length of time, then it will send an alert. And we can see when an alert has been generated by the sensor icon here. If it's green, it means that the alert has been cleared. It'll be amber if it's been acknowledged. and red if it's still outstanding. If you see the temperature going over the maximum or under the minimum without alerting, then it's because it hasn't been out of range long enough to send an alert. Don't forget, the sensor will wait for the length of the recovery period defined in the rule before it sends an alert. From this screen, you'll also be able to see if there are any outstanding alerts for that sensor. If there are, you can press the button here, and that will then open the alert status screen, which is the screen that I showed you initially when we first logged in to the control center. And that is how you view what the sensors are doing right now. So that's it. You've now reached the end of the Managing Alerts, Reports and Sensors course. I hope you found the session useful, and thank you for watching.